Welcome back to another Jazz basketball breakdown. We've been gone for about a week, 3 games.
Took a little breaky break.
Yeah, both of us kind of been schedules not matching up, and wasn't the worst time of the season to be missing some games.
I mean, there were a couple little bright spots from Sensabaugh in that stretch, right?
Yep.
That were kind of cool to see, but overall, I mean, something that we can recap here. I've kept up somewhat on the games and the news in the meantime, though. It's
Yep,
pretty
for
fun,
sure.
but good little break.
Keyonte George has been balling out. That's been the one really big noticeable thing is he's been not just playing well, he's shooting really efficiency right now, efficiently. We were talking before this that on the season he's sadly but up to just under 40% from the field and like 34% from three. But over his last 10, he's shooting 45% from the field and like 48% from 3-point line. Start of the season, the numbers were really bad efficiency wise, and so not just having big offensive numbers games, he's also shooting a lot more efficiently, which has been awesome to see.
This is the time of the season where the rookies really are their minutes are trending downward because their efficiency and their numbers are going downward. Their bodies
Right,
aren't prepared for it. They really didn't have an off season for the first time in their life.
right.
Right? That kind of stuff. So for him to do this is very nice, um, not normal, not expected, and the cast that he's around doesn't make it any easier on him.
Yeah, he's not doing this right now with Lowry Markkinen on the court. So, Markkinen's kind of opening that space just by naturally being on the court. Taylor Hendricks, even with his spacing, he's running. I mean, we're running 4 guard lineups and John Collins, or 4 guard lineups and Walker Kessler. So it's and guys, in Clarkson, THT, Sexton, not good at spacing the floor, not good
That's
at
that's absolutely the point right
spreading the
there.
court.
And you got to figure that Markkinen's out. The other team, he's got to be, if not the top scouted person that they're going to come after on their scouting report, he's got to be 1A or 1B, right? Along
Yeah,
with, we know that Sexton and Clarkson are getting a lot of usage, but as far as the guy that pulls the strings, he has to be one of the top scouted opponents that teams are coming in after and still
right.
doing it.
And I mean, tonight he played almost every minute, if not every minute, against Drew Holiday on the court. Drew Holiday guarded him, and then there was a good stretch in the fourth where Jason Tatum was guarding him. That's legit.
This is, I mean, most of the league would consider this to be the top defensive
Guard.
guard lineup in the league, the Celtics for sure. So for him to be able to still find his shot and find his points and distribute the ball, there were some shots that he took in tight windows, which I'm good with. I can only really remember one that I would classify as a bad shot. Really, kind of wasn't really
Stepped
smart in the
into it,
timing of it.
wasn't in rhythm. It was super
Yep.
early in the shot clock.
So outside of that, very decisive from early on in taking his shot. Um, Man, there are a lot of positive things you can take out of this.
That's the thing, 26 and 6 tonight. And man, I mentioned to you while we were watching it, we suck at getting a guy who's just on fire and feeding him.
We've
We're
complained about this
we're
all
so
year
bad
long.
about that.
I
Like
know.
unless it's a guy who's just gonna sprint up to the ball and say, "Give me the ball." Um, Between the players and the coaches, we are bad about just continuing to hit that guy. I mean, we started this game and Keyonte looked like he was going to drop 20 in the first quarter,
Right.
and then so he hits like 10 quick points, and then it was like, Sexton, your turn. You try it now.
The problem with this team is, we as we run to the ball and the person that has the ball, if they dribble into the shot, they can get that shot a lot, sure. But we're not a team that can pass the ball and move it around and intentionally all the pieces on the team know who the shot is going to go to because
Mhm.
that person is on fire, right?
Right.
So we're a team that if I pass the ball to you, it's like, holy crap, my chance of now getting the ball back is 2.7%.
Right.
And it'll stick with you, or if it somehow gets to the next person. So we're very much a team like that we can't make 2 or 3 passes and still yet know that we're all working to get one person that we all know ahead of time the shot.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's rough. He looked like he came out and decisive. A couple of quick shots, had like 7 out of our first 9 points.
Mm-hmm.
Ends up with 17 at the half still, right? Which is a good half. Very few touches in the second half, and kind of down the stretch, he hits a couple in the fourth to bring it to 26. But one thing that I pointed out to you that we've talked about during the season is maybe one of the reasons why his legs are still, or I say his shot is still consistent and going in, is because he isn't the shooter that has to have max jump
Right.
on his jumper. That doesn't mean he doesn't jump and he's not athletic, but he's a kind of a medium jump shooter, and it's a lot of flick of the wrist, and it's not getting up to the highest peak on the jump to do it. And a lot of times, and you mentioned this even going against a family member of yours, but a lot of times in the 3-point shooting contest, the high jump shooters really struggle in that, because by the time they get to the end, their legs are gone and they
Right.
front rim everything.
Right.
He's a shooter that it's much more the form and the flick of the wrist and less jumping, and that'll make him super tough as we get late into regular season, one-day playoffs, in any of these long, tough games that are going to be out there.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. Right now, the exciting part is that we are hitting a very legit time where it's like, how soon, and I kind of ask you this, how soon until we start seeing Keyonte being every bit, if not more, the player than Donovan Mitchell was for us? And part of that is because Donovan Mitchell had an incredible ability to score for us, but he wasn't really a facilitator consistently, these last stretch of games. And it's obviously a very small window, but Keyonte George isn't just scoring 25, 29, 30 points. He's also getting 6, 7, 8 assists in those games.
One thing that Donovan Mitchell, and I guess we can talk about some of the differences there. One thing that Donovan Mitchell was really able to do that was unique as a rookie is that his body was physically prepared much more than Keyonte's is. So Keyonte's upside and ceiling is going to go higher that way than Donovan Mitchell's. Donovan Mitchell was able to impact winning as a rookie, which is quite rare. He came in with an ability, his side to side, his strength, and his strong base kind of allowed him to do some pretty special things.
Right.
But the things that we're seeing out of Keyonte, even being at what I would call a physical disadvantage right now, are pretty darn special. And Donovan Mitchell had a bit of a cast around him too that was much more prepared than what we have right now for Keyonte George. So yeah, how long before this offseason is going to answer a lot of that, right? What kind of shape does Keyonte come in? You know that he's going to be in the gym all summer. You know that he's going to prepare
He is a
like
gym
a
rat.
madman. That's the superpower for that youngster.
And that's the thing is if right after trading Donovan Mitchell, we happen to just strike gold with a guy like Keyonte George, who has already shown who has an upside as an all-star, possibly superstar in this league, has that upside. It's like, man, if he can even come close to that, even just as an all-star level, especially at 16 in the draft, it's just unheard of.
Pretty insane. In last year's, surprise gold could have been Markkanen, right? You could say that out of that trade, and then Keyonte right on top of it. So, and we have a couple of other rookies that are making some waves.
Hope we get Taylor Hendricks back quickly to see him get some good minutes as well, because he is starting to play well through this little bit of a stretch too.
And Sensabaugh only ended up with 2 points tonight. The thing that I really love about his game, because he's had some good scoring games and rebounding games, but even though his shot wasn't falling, had a real tough draw on some of the guys, he was matched up with Tatum out there a bunch as well, is there was a stretch there, especially in the second half, where he was flat out facilitating for everybody out there in some amazing passes.
First half was really bad for him. He really struggled. It was that first game where it was just like, yikes, that we've seen him with consistent minutes. But then the second half, like you said, he has a play where Tatum's up in his chest and he bodies him a little bit, crosses over, drives to his left, spins into him as the defender comes, kicks it out for an open three, and it's just like, and then he has another one like on a fast break where he's driving and then just seems to out of nowhere turn and throw it blindly to a Chris Dunn wide open for a set shot three, and it was just like, okay, you can see why in the G League, if you guys paid attention to him while he was playing for the Stars, he had a lot of games where he had 6, 7, 10 assists.
Yeah, we were hearing noise that they were amazed by his passing ability, right? And we're starting to see glimpses of that. So, man, that's money. And this isn't a situation where he's kind of running into a dead-end roadblock and kind of stumbles it out. He's making passes in rhythm and in the flow of what's going on. So that's high level. That's exciting for that guy. Some defensive lapses. We saw a little bit more of those today.
This was his worst defensive game, and it wasn't even close.
Yep. Which coming in, was kind of his real kryptonite on the court. So we'll see how that comes and that develops. But some real signs, as far as the rebounding and the playmaking out of him, and we know that usually he can make buckets. He's always been a bucket his entire life. So that's exciting. So the overall kind of down the stretch here, watching games really is for the rookies, right?
Yeah,
that's what's bringing
it's about the youth, right? And that's it. I truthfully, I'd be okay if Markkanen plays, down the stretch. Obviously, I'm never upset watching Markkanen play, and I think it'd be good to see him get more chemistry with Keyonte George. But at the same time, I'm not too disappointed if we shut down Markkanen. I'm not disappointed if we shut down Clarkson, right? If we shut down these more veteran players and just say, yo, young guys, go figure it out. And if we lose every game towards the end, down the end of the season, so what? Who cares? We're not making the playoffs right now. Who cares?
Right. Not making the playoffs. I checked yesterday on Tankathon. We were in 9th place as far as, so we would retain our pick as we knew we're trending in that direction. But there's some other teams doing the same thing. So
yeah. And we yesterday signed Darius Baisley Jr. and Kenny Lofton Jr. Darius Baisley and Kenny Lofton Jr. Something. Not related to the baseball player Kenny Lofton.
Right. And not, what did I say? I messed up his name during the game. Blazemore or something like that.
Oh, yeah. You called Darius Baisley Kent Bazemore.
Yeah. Pretty close.
But I like those signings in the sense of we're going and picking up young players, which is another reason why I'm okay if we shut down some of these guys and just allow these young players. I mean, Kenny Lofton, big boy. And but has showed some skills in playing in the summer league this year and playing in the G League and stuff. Has shown legit skills. He just is 290 pounds, and that's not an exaggeration,
right?
And Darius Baisley is still only 23. He's played 6 years in the league, which is obviously concerning, but it was only 23. Lanky athlete defensively, what we're missing right now. And so I like us picking up young players. I'm okay letting Otto Porter go, and he obviously decided to retire. There wasn't really much of a market for him out there, and I would rather Baisley on the team than Otto Porter right now. I'd rather Kenny Lofton than Kevin Knox right now, just to get young players and more run with young players to maybe find another hidden gem like Chris Dunn last year. I mean, obviously different where he's 28, 29, but similar idea. You mentioned, is this the Chris Dunn, Luka Samanic signings that we had at the end of last year to try to bring them in and get a little bit of run with them down the stretch? And I think that's awesome, especially on a season like this. It makes sense. I mean, we found a gem in Chris Dunn, who another game where you could look at his numbers and look at a box score and say, man, that guy sucks. That guy is waste of space on the court. But you actually watch the game and you see how many different things he impacts. And then you look and see, man, Clarkson and Keyonte George were a negative 26, and Chris Dunn was a positive +1 on a blowout.
And he was in there a lot of minutes guarding Jason Tatum.
Yes.
And Tatum was hitting tough shots over him, but he was making life rough on him, right?
And so a guy like that who impacts the game. So if we can get a sneaky signing in Baisley or Kenny Lofton to get a similar guy who comes in and doesn't necessarily have to put up huge numbers but can add impacts on this team, that's what we need right now. A game like tonight showed how horrible we are defensively. Kenny Lofton's not going to help with that, but Baisley could. And And a game like tonight showed how poor we are at 6'8" wing defensively.
Amen to that. We kind of traded those spots away.
Yes.
We're not going to get into that. So that's why. Anyways, okay, I'll let it go. The contract side of that as well, that's very positive, kind of like we did with Dunn and Samanich this year, is we had a non-guaranteed contract where if something all of a sudden came across and we needed to add an extra roster spot for the time being, we could, right? Yeah. We could drop their contract. It's the flexibility. Obviously, Zanuck and Ainge of this is something they like to do, and it's a pattern now. So, good for them. We'll see. We wish every person that comes on the Jazz team the best of luck, and we want them to be monsters.
Yeah.
We want them to tear it up. So that'll be interesting to see.
Dude, another reason why I'd be okay with seeing, like, hell, even Sexton and Clarkson kind of getting shut down is I want to see a little bit of run of Jason Preston. I mean, there comes a point when the dude consistently is getting triple doubles where it's like, let's throw you in some NBA games with this team since we're young, and anyway, why not?
We haven't even talked about Isaiah Thomas. I mean, he scored like 30 a game, man.
And, yeah. He's also like 30-something years old.
I was pretty amazed when I saw that they signed him and what he was doing.
Trying to make a comeback.
Jazz are the comeback team now. Comeback career
the
team.
Stars are, I don't know. But I don't know. I'm intrigued with some of our young players down the stretch, what we can do. I think Summer League next year is going to be super fun. If we even, I don't think Keyonte George may get a half, a quarter.
We may have to go to the first Summer League game in Salt Lake City to see him because they may shut him down after that. I don't know. Not for sure, but
he's been starting most of the. I would be shocked to see him, but sometimes they like to see him play more. With how many minutes and stuff he's playing, I'd be shocked to see them not get him more of a rest during the offseason. But you could see a heavy dose of like Bryce Sensabaugh and Taylor Hendricks.
Taylor Hendricks, for sure.
And whoever we draft in the top 10, of this draft, which could end up being a very solid pick. I'm super intrigued with Dunn right now. I don't remember his first name.
Ryan Dunn,
because he's what, 6'9", 6'10"?
They list him at 6'9". Who knows what his actual height is, but he's a lanky, and he's one of those guys that grew a ton when he got into college.
Mm-hmm.
So this is his third year in college. He doesn't really have the offensive side, doesn't look for the shot much, but he is an unbelievable defensive player.
Yeah.
You won't see many defensive players like him in the college ranks. I mean, even look right now with Charlotte in Leaky Black. I don't know if you watched him much last year playing with North Carolina, but he was a long, lanky defender that was taken second round, and he's worked his way into quite a bit of playing time for Charlotte this year, just off of his defensive abilities. And I would say that Ryan Dunn is an even more prolific defender and can guard more positions than Leaky Black. You won't see defenders of his type very often come through, especially in the college game.
Especially right now where we have so many questions in like our five, for example, with John Collins and Walker Kessler. I don't even know what the hell we're going to do there at this point. And, to the point where it's like, man, if Taylor Hendricks bulks up a little bit, does he just become our five?
I don't know if that's a long-term answer. That'd be interesting to see. There's also some other very mobile center-like players that could go towards the end of the first round, which would kind of be in the range where we're at. There's a player from Marquette that has some real intriguing mobility, playmaking, passing, dribbling, doesn't really shoot very well, and that's the center for Marquette. His name's Oso Ighodaro. That guy's intrigued me for about a year and a half now. He's not going to have a whole ton of offense, but he'll look for a little jumper, a little floater there in the lane, much more than Kessler will, and he is mobile. The guy is a screen setting, can work him into pick and roll, dribble handoffs all over the court.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. I'm actually really excited to see what we do with this offseason. Another guy, I would shut down John Collins if you start shutting down guys and start Kessler the rest of the year just to really get a final look of, hey, are you going to be able to be in this position, or do we need to really start kind of hitting that we need to figure something out button? So lots of questions to be answered the last part of the season and then going into next year, but we're starting to see some really bright spots out of our young players.
Absolutely. And you compare it to kind of years past. It's a different last stretch of the season here, but like I said, the youngsters is what kind of keeps me coming back and watching it with excitement. Even if I just see Sensabaugh and his comfort level on the ball and driving and passing, it's just, you can tell it's not somebody that's having to focus on it and work on it every day in practice. It's within him. It's a part of his
Yeah.
game and has been from the time he was young. So when it's that level, you know that some special things can be unlocked. So we get to witness it sometimes. That's fun.
Yeah, I'm actually few games off gave me a little bit of a good reset on the Jazz season because we were in a really rough spot, man.
It got dark, and then they announced that everybody was out. We were like, oh boy.
Yeah, so let us know what you guys thought of the last few games that we missed. Let us know what we missed. Like I said, both of us kind of caught pieces of it, but didn't sit down and you watched most of the last game, but I really didn't get to sit down and watch them all the way through. And so let us know what you guys thought of those games and what you're kind of thinking of our young players right now.
Yeah, we've got Hawks and then back-to-back Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yep.
So tough sledding there.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough end of the season. Thanks, guys.